The ink was barely dry on the divorce decree when the man I loved, Damon Sterling, brazenly seized our $12 million estate, the result of my youth and dedication. Not only did he force me out of the house empty-handed, but he had the audacity to throw a deep red wedding invitation right into my face. It featured a glossy photo of him and his paramour, Chloe Ray, smiling triumphantly. "Be sure to come over this weekend and congratulate us, ex-wife. Come see what real happiness looks like." I stood there, humiliated and heartbroken, amidst the wreckage of my shattered marriage. I dragged my lone, heavy suitcase back to my mother's small apartment. I wept. As I showed her the invitation, the physical proof of my deepest humiliation, I expected tears, anger, or curses against the traitor. Instead, my mother, Nayala Obi, merely smiled, a cold, enigmatic smile I'd never seen before. She patted my shoulder and spoke firmly. "Don't cry, baby girl. Put on your war paint. Get fly and go. Mama's about to show you a magnificent performance." My name is Amara Cole, and I'm an interior designer. I fell head over heels for Damon, a charismatic media executive. For our wedding, my mother, Nayala, gifted us a luxury villa on the Sovereign Estate in Buckhead, Atlanta. I believed my mother was a humble, stay-at-home parent who had struggled to raise me after my father passed. I poured 3 years of my life and passion into personally designing and overseeing the construction of that house, turning it into a work of art worth $12 million. But once the house was finished, Damon changed. He grew cold and started coming home late. The true peak of cruelty came 2 months ago when he tearfully begged me to sign the house over to his name for a company bankruptcy loan. Amara, please help me just this once, he pleaded. This house is yours. I just need to put it in my name for the loan. I would never covet it. Blindly trusting him, I signed a thick stack of documents without reading every page. That was my fatal mistake. Unbeknownst to me, he had cleverly inserted a deed of real estate donation among the guarantee contracts. My signature immediately transferred ownership of my masterpiece to him. His true colors then exploded. He divorced me, bringing his mistress, Chloe Ray, right into our home. The whole bankruptcy story was a farce, orchestrated by him and his mother to trick me into signing away the property. He threw me out with a broken heart. Now he was throwing a lavish wedding at the house that rightfully belonged to me. My mother, Nayala Obi, ushered me into her small, quiet apartment. After my sobs subsided, she sat me down and looked at me with an intense, strangely sharp gaze. "Amara," she said, her voice completely different, no longer that of a simple, loving mother, but of someone entirely in command. "Lift your head. Tears don't solve anything. The person who should be crying now isn't you. It's that traitor." She prepared me a cup of hot tea, and as I calmed down, she began to reveal a secret she had hidden my entire life. "Have you ever wondered why I always hid my past?" she asked. "Why I told people I was a simple stay-at-home mother living off the small pension your daddy left?" She walked to an old wooden cabinet, opened a locked drawer, and pulled out a dark red lacquer box. Inside were old black and white photos and yellowed notebooks. "This is the real me," she stated calmly. She handed me a photo of an elegant young woman posing next to a famous French chef, captioned, "Nayala, winner of the Global Culinary Masters Competition, Paris, 1995. Then came magazine clippings detailing her shaking hands with heads of state at luxury restaurant openings. They all spoke of one woman, Nyala Obi, the great queen of American culinary arts. "I am the founder and owner of the Global Spice Syndicate," she revealed, her voice now serene. The name hit me like lightning. It was a national brand, a culinary empire valued in the billions, with hundreds of restaurants across the country and overseas. I was stunned. "Why the secrecy?" "Because of your father," she explained, a deep sadness crossing her face. "He was a good man, but he could never overcome my shadow. My money and my fame, without realizing it, killed his self-esteem and his talent." She had vowed not to let that tragedy repeat with me. She wanted me to find a man who loved me for myself, not for the immense fortune I would inherit. "I watched Damon very closely," she continued, her voice hardening. "The blood of an entrepreneur doesn't allow me to bet everything in a game with uncertain odds." She then delivered the crucial revelation. "When I gifted you both the sovereign estate, I didn't just give you a property. It wasn't a simple gift, baby girl. It was a trap, a legally perfect trap." She pulled out a blue leather dossier. The first words I saw were, "Conditional deed of real estate donation." The ownership of the house is directly tied to your marital status. The moment the marriage certificate loses its validity, this deed is automatically annulled, and the ownership of the house immediately reverts to me. Damon's greedy maneuver had been pointless. The deed of donation he tricked me into signing was a secondary transaction derived from the original conditional contract. Now that he've divorced and that root has been eliminated, the tree has no choice but to dry up and die. All subsequent documents are worthless. The house had not been his since the judge issued the divorce decree. He was currently living illegally in her property. Damon is illegally celebrating his wedding of the century in Nyala's house? What ingenious plan does Nyala formulate to deliver the most public, humiliating, and unforgettable checkmate using the catering company he hired? My pain was instantly cut in half, replaced by a strange, triumphant joy. "So what do we do now?" I asked my mother, Nyala Obi. "Do we sue him immediately and take the house back?" Nyala smiled, the same cold, enigmatic smile she'd given me when I first showed her the invitation. "Sue? Why the rush, baby girl?" she asked. "What's the fun in a lawsuit? We don't have to do a thing. We just sit back and wait for the fish to jump into the net all by himself." She picked up the wedding invitation. Damon had invited us to witness his wedding, claiming it would be the wedding of the century at the sovereign estate. "The louder he is," Nyala declared, "the more humiliating his fall will be. He wanted the wedding of the century, and I'm going to give him the disaster of the century." I was still struggling to follow her logic. "Did he hire a caterer?" she asked. "Yes, a luxury catering company called the Platinum Palette," I replied. "Excellent," Nyala nodded, her eyes twinkling with cunning. "Then things are even easier than I thought." She stood up. "What you need to do is wipe your tears, go shopping, get gorgeous, and choose the most dazzling dress. That day, you have to show up like a queen to witness the downfall of those who scorned you. Leave everything else in my hands." My gratitude overwhelmed me. I realized I had not just a loving mother, but a warrior, a true queen. The invitation was no longer a symbol of my humiliation. It was a ticket to Damon's downfall. Meanwhile, Damon and Chloe Ray acted like a tiger let loose in the jungle, convinced they had won. Chloe, the social media influencer, turned her accounts into a reality channel showcasing their luxurious life at the sovereign estate. They mocked me in every post, boasting about the preparations for their lavish wedding. Damon was drunk on his victory and had completely dropped his guard. He never suspected the catering company he chose. The platinum palette's fame and exorbitant price made him believe it was the perfect choice to demonstrate his status. Unbeknownst to them, the offices of the platinum palette were run by Aisha Jackson, one of my mother's most competent right-hand women within the global spice syndicate. Damon and Chloe met with Aisha, demanding an exclusive menu filled with high-end Western food, specifying they were not used to rustic food like chitterlings or hogmao. Aisha smiled meaningfully, noting their requests. She immediately called my mother. "Madame President, the fish has taken the bait," she reported. Nyala, the great queen of American culinary arts, smiled. "Proceed according to the plan. We're going to show them what the truth tastes like." Nyala personally drafted the secret menu. "Your mission this time," she instructed her chef, "is not to make it taste good, but to make it taste very authentic. The flavor of the lie and the flavor of the bill coming due." Damon and Chloe remained completely oblivious, too arrogant to notice that their arrogance was turning them into puppets in my mother's hands. The stage is set for the biggest wedding in Atlanta, but Nyala's secret menu is about to expose Damon and Chloe in the most humiliating way possible. How does Amara's transformation prepare her to witness the spectacle? In the days following the meeting with the catering company, my world transformed completely. The despair and emptiness were replaced by a burning determination, a flame rising from the ashes of betrayal. I was no longer Amara, the weak, abandoned wife. I was slowly becoming my mother's daughter, Nyala Obi, a woman who would never allow anyone else to decide her destiny. My mother hadn't just given me a revenge plan. She had restored my self-esteem. "Don't let your tears fall for someone who doesn't deserve them," she told me. "Instead of crying, turn the pain into strength. Get up, hold your head high, and show the world that without him, you live 10,000 times better." I began an intensive process of transformation, inside and out. My mother moved me into one of her secure, completely private downtown penthouses. It became my personal training center. I started a scientific regimen of exercise and diet under the supervision of a nutritionist and personal trainer. Every drop of sweat not only restored my figure, but also washed away the accumulated worries and bitterness. The biggest change, however, was mental. Nyala didn't give me a second to dwell on negative thoughts. She introduced me to successful businesswomen and talented artists, exposing me to a world of independent, strong women. I realized a woman's world cannot revolve solely around a man. Nyala also took me to her best friend, the famous fashion designer Ms. Montez. "Create an outfit for her that transforms her from a Cinderella into a true queen," Nyala requested. Ms. Montez taught me the language of fashion, explaining that clothes are a statement of who you are. I chose ruby red, the color of power, glamour, passion, and vengeance. The evening gown was ready the day before the wedding. When I looked in the mirror, I was a different person, seductive, mysterious, and authoritative. The professional makeup concealed all traces of fatigue. The ruby red dress, a daring sweetheart neckline with a high slit, fit my body perfectly, turning me into a dazzling flame. "Magnificent," Ms. Montez admired. "The moment you walk in there, you've already won." I no longer felt fear or resentment. I was going there as a special spectator to officially end my past and show Damon, Chloe, and his family how splendid and strong the woman they had cruelly discarded had been reborn. Meanwhile, Damon and Chloe remained arrogant, oblivious that their ostentation was making them puppets in my mother's final performance. The day of the wedding arrives, and Damon is self-assured, unaware that his wedding of the century is about to turn into the disaster of the century. What shocking display greets the guests when the platinum palette begins serving the banquet? That weekend, the sky over Atlanta was clear and sunny, seemingly enhancing Damon and Chloe's extravagant wedding of the century. The sovereign estate, which I had designed with passion, was now ostentatiously decorated with exaggerated, opulent luxury.
Hundreds of influential VIP guests, journalists, and famous bloggers gathered. Damon, self-assured and radiant, and Chloe, glittering in a designer dress, were at the height of their perceived victory. Damon gave a speech declaring himself the happiest man in the world. It was the perfect moment. Then, the master of ceremonies announced the banquet prepared by Atlanta's finest catering company, the Platinum Palette, the royal feast. This was the signal. Following Nala's secret orders, dozens of waiters emerged, respectfully carrying trays of food covered with silver cloches. The guests and the bride and groom watched expectantly, wondering what exotic delicacies awaited them. Lobster, sea bass, or perhaps something exotic? Damon and Chloe smiled, ready for the praise. The silver cloches were lifted in unison. What appeared beneath was neither lobster nor Wagyu beef. The luxurious space was instantly filled with a very characteristic, intense, earthy aroma, completely out of place in that setting. It was the smell of Southern-style chitterlings, or chitlins, accompanied by fried hog maw. The garden space fell into stunned silence. Hundreds of elegantly dressed guests looked with indescribable expressions at the dishes. On the white English porcelain plates were artistically plated chitterlings, or chitlins, alongside strips of smoked sausage and carefully arranged pieces of fried hog maw. The potent odor of the chitterlings permeated the air. In that luxurious wedding hall, it was an olfactory disaster. The sight of roadside food, the quintessential street food, respectfully served at a multi-million-dollar wedding, sparked a growing murmur of disbelief and disgust among the elite guests. This was no simple accident. It was an elaborately and artistically orchestrated humiliation. The food has been served, but the real chaos is just beginning. How does this devastating banquet affect the image-obsessed bride, Chloe, and what makes Damon completely lose control? The moment the silver cloches were lifted, the silence was broken by murmurs, disbelief, and the pungent smell of the chitterlings. This elaborately orchestrated humiliation hit the party's protagonist the hardest. Chloe Ray, the bride, who had built her influencer image on refined, high-class tastes, was utterly destroyed. Standing on stage under the incessant camera flashes, she was forced to face a banquet full of the lowbrow food she had openly despised. A wave of extreme shame washed over her. She felt stripped naked and mercilessly mocked. "Damon! Damon!" she cried, her smile broken. Damon Sterling was equally stunned. He had spent millions and pulled every string to turn this event into a publicity triumph, seeking admiration and envy. Instead, his wedding of the century had instantly become the joke of the century. His shock instantly morphed into uncontrollable rage. He was sure Amara was responsible for this disaster. Forgetting his image entirely, he stormed off the stage, bloodshot eyes scanning the scene like a mad beast. "Where is the manager? The manager of the Platinum Palette! Step out now!" he screamed, drowning out the music. Aisha Jackson, Nyala's loyal director of operations, emerged with surprising calm. Damon, driven mad by humiliation, lunged and grabbed her by the lapels. "Look what you've done to my wedding! Chitlins, hog maw! Do you know how much I paid for this?" he bellowed. Aisha calmly pushed his hands away. "Mr. Sterling, all the food today has been prepared according to the menu we agreed upon." When Damon yelled that his menu was lobster and Wagyu beef, Aisha motioned for an employee to present a folder. There, on the appendix listing traditional Southern dishes, was Damon's signature, clear and irrefutable. He had fallen into the most basic trap by signing all pages without reading carefully. It's her! It's that Amara! Damon cried, bloodshot eyes staring into the void. He began searching frantically for me, screaming like a mad beast. The chaos escalated. Guests began quietly leaving. Chloe, her shame now turning to rage, ran up and pounded Damon's chest. "What have you done, Damon? You've turned our wedding into a circus!" Damon shoved her hard, convinced I was nearby, laughing at them. He was right. I was sitting in a black-tinted car parked just outside the gate, watching everything calmly on a screen next to my mother, Nyala Obi. "It's time, Mama," I asked, my voice trembling slightly with anticipation. Nyala set down her teacup, a queen ready to make her entrance. The iron gates of the villa slowly opened, signaling that the protagonist of the final act had arrived. The entrance has been made, and Amara is stunning. How does she deal with Damon and his mother's immediate accusations, and what crucial legal term she uses that reveals the house has never been Damon's? Amara's black Audi A8 glided silently into the chaotic garden, pulling up just feet from the frozen bride and groom. As I stepped out, my ruby-red Christian Louboutin stilettos touching the manicured grass, the silence was absolute. I was a dazzling flame in my ruby-red gown, an image of authority that stood in stark contrast to the disheveled, mascara-streaked Chloe. Damon Sterling reacted first, his rage intensifying. "You dare to show up here!" he yelled, lunging toward me. Convinced the entire disaster, from the Chitlins to the chaos, was my doing. He was restrained by my mother's sturdy chauffeur. Isha Sterling, my ex-mother-in-law, joined the fray, launching into her usual drama. "Look at this, everyone! My ex-daughter-in-law returns to ruin the wedding. What a shameless woman to return so brazenly after being kicked out," she wailed, twisting the knife by emphasizing that I was raised without a daddy. I watched them in silence, allowing their uncontrolled performance to reach its miserable climax. "Are you two finished with your performance?" I finally asked, my voice calm and authoritative, silencing them both. "You said I ruined your wedding, Mr. Sterling. Look at yourself and see who is turning this wedding into a laughingstock. Is it me, or is it the groom himself who is screaming and grabbing the caterer by the lapels like a lunatic?" I held up the deep red invitation Damon had thrown at me. "I haven't come here to ruin any wedding. I have come here as an invited guest." Damon roared with fury, pointing his finger. "This is not your place. Get out of my house right now." "Are you sure this is your house, Mr. Sterling?" I smiled meaningfully. "I'd love to see who the guards of my house obey." Just then, my mother, Nyala Obi, appeared, dressed in an authoritative dark blue silk suit, followed by her legal team. Her entrance instantly calmed the chaos. Several influential guests, stunned by her presence, rushed forward to greet her, calling her President Oba. Isha Sterling stammered in disbelief. "Ma'am, Zahara's mother, how are you here?" Nyala looked at her with contempt. "Why do I need your permission to enter my own house?" Nyala's lawyer, Jamal Booker, stepped forward, holding the conditional deed. "Mr. Sterling, the ownership of this estate is tied to your marital status. As the Fulton County Family Court issued a final divorce decree, this deed of donation is automatically annulled. The ownership of this estate has automatically reverted to its original owner, my client, Miss Nyala Obi." Damon roared with fury, but he was restrained by bodyguards. Nyala then turned her attention to the petrified bride, Chloe. "Congratulations, darling. I am Nyala Obi, president of the Global Spice Syndicate, and also the owner of the Platinum Palette, the company you hired. She revealed she personally designed the menu to feature the chitterlings and hogmaw, stabbing directly at Chloe's pride. The shame and fear of having married a ruined swindler were too much for Chloe. No, I'm not getting married. I'm not marrying a swindler like you, she screamed, ripping the diamond ring from her finger and fleeing the estate. The performance had reached its end. The bride has fled and the house is legally reclaimed. What final ruthless act of justice does Nyala unleash on Damon and Isha Sterling, ensuring they are not only humiliated, but completely ruined?
Damon Sterling stood motionless, the red mark on his cheek from the ring Chloe threw still visible. He was a miserable failure, standing stunned among the wreckage of his deceit. But Nyala Obi had no intention of letting the show end halfway. She demanded a complete finale. Attorney Jamal Booker spoke again, his voice cold and firm. Mr. Sterling, I reiterate, from the moment the divorce decree became effective, the conditional deed of donation for the sovereign estate was officially annulled. This means all rights of ownership, use, and disposal have automatically transferred to its original owner, our client, Miss Nyala Obi. Any act of occupancy by you and your family after the date of divorce is an illegal act. Isha Sterling, Damon's mother, screamed accusations of scamming, but Nyala silenced her. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Because of a little greed and short-sightedness, your son has become a fool, a nobody. Attorney Jamal Booker formally demanded that Damon, Isha, and all unrelated persons vacate the estate immediately. When Damon resisted, Nyala nodded, and the Global Spice Syndicate's internal security team, a robust force in black uniforms, entered the gate. Damon and Isha Sterling were physically escorted out of the sovereign estate, passing by tables still filled with the humiliating chitterlings and hogmaw. The revenge was swift and complete. That same night, videos of the Chitlin wedding turned into a social media storm, with hashtags like #RevengeOfTheCentury trending instantly. Damon and Chloe's names became infamous. Chloe Ray suffered a fatal blow to her career. Fashion and cosmetic brands terminated contracts, and she became known as the Chitlin poser. Damon's media company fired him immediately to save their reputation, and he lost his job, his house, and his future wife. The Global Spice Syndicate's legal team formally sued him for fraud and misappropriation of assets, leading to a 3-year prison sentence. The compensation demands from wedding sponsors left him completely ruined. After his release, he had nothing, forced into manual labor like a delivery driver or street food waiter, ironically selling the food he once despised. Isha Sterling was hospitalized due to nervous and physical exhaustion. Her family crumbled, paying a heavy price for their greed. Meanwhile, Amara and Nyala converted the sovereign estate into the Legacy Roots Center, a high-end culinary and cultural exhibition space. Amara, as director of operations, found her self-worth and a meaningful life, proving that a betrayal can sometimes open a new, wider, and better path. Amara concluded that she didn't hate them, she was even grateful, as their betrayal forced her to discover her true strength and build a meaningful life. Justice was served, not as revenge, but as each person receiving exactly what their actions deserve. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.